Warning, this review will spoil the plot of the movie Scarface, the 1983 one, but given that the game starts right where the movie ends, and the reason why the developers did this are key to the game and this review, although the plot of the game will stay spoiler free. So if you haven't seen Scarface yet, I recommend watching that first, seriously, it's a masterpiece. Then this review, otherwise keep watching. Scarface is one of my favourite movies of all time, and one of the best for its genre. Action-packed, violent, gratuitous, quotable, and colourful, while also serving as a cautionary tale of greed, living life as a criminal, and a rough idea of how dangerous it was in Miami during that period, which made it a massive go-to for creative inspiration, with one including a Grand Theft Auto game based in Miami called Vice City. By that period, Scarface hit cult classic status, while the open world genre in video games had exploded, and so many were taking advantage, including Assassin's Creed, Jak and Daxter, Saints Row, and even films and TV shows including SpongeBob SquarePants, The Simpsons, and of course, Scarface. The good thing with developing a video game based on a film or TV show that came out years earlier means there's no real deadline. You have a chance to take your time, bring in what fans cherished about the film or TV show to begin with, and add more storyline and context. Vivendi Games announced a Scarface title on December 2004, and was under the development of Radical Entertainment, who are a bit of a hit-and-miss game developer. They've made plenty of bad games like the Mario educational titles and Crash Bandicoot in the late 2000s. But also a few good ones including Simpsons Hit and Run, Prototype, and this game. 106 people worked on it, but went through a minor development hell because they weren't sure what kind of game it was going to be. Going from third-person shooter to open-world GTA clone, with an alternate timeline and endless revisions after negative feedback on the pre-alpha. But eventually, Scarface The World Is Yours was released for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC on October 2006, and for the Nintendo Wii on June 2007. We're looking at the PlayStation 2 Collector's Edition. I saw it in a magazine once, but didn't think about it that much because I wasn't a fan of movie-based video games at the time, and I wouldn't have been old enough to play it. However, it came back to me after getting Scarface on DVD, browsing the special features, and saw the making of The World Is Yours caught me by surprise a bit. And after finding it a swap meet in this condition for only $2, I couldn't refuse, and I know how much you guys like it when I review open world games. So, time to take my talents to South Beach, again. It begins where the movie is about to end. Tony Montana just ticked off Alejandro Sosa after failing to help him with the UN problem, which leads to a gang war, with Sosa's men invading Tony's house.
Say hello to my little friend!
Now in the film, Tony tries to single-handedly take them all down, but instead takes a full shotgun blast to the back. The world is yours. One of the best shootouts in film history. But this game says the show must go on. Here, Tony stops that assassin and continues the shootout throughout the mansion, and barely escapes with everyone believing he was killed. You lose everything. At least you get an exact idea of what he earned in the movie, and it's gone.
Hey, Sosa! You thought you could take me? No! No one takes Tony Montana down by me!
That's one way to start a video game, or maybe it's a continuation of GTA Vice City. 3 months later, Tony comes out of hiding and plans to take back everything, rebuild the empire he had in the movie, and get his revenge on Sosa.
Well, I'm back, okay? This is my town, my world, George, and nobody's gonna take it away from me.
The developers initially approached Oliver Stone to write the script for the game, but he declined, and instead they got David McKenna, who was also a film screenwriter, with his resume including American History X and Blow. They believed that setting it during the events of the film wasn't the best idea, because if you've seen it, you know exactly how the story for Tony ends, and that would make it too predictable. But an alternate reality where he survives and has to rebuild from scratch? That's a genius idea. But how do you manage with the lack of main characters from the film? Fortunately, a few actors who portray them, Steve Bauer, Robert Loggia, and Al Israel, don't reprise their roles, but voice new ones that are important to the plot.
You have respect for this business, Tony. You are someone I can trust.
Trust is all you got, you know?
It's like Tony and Manny working together again. And there are so many celebrity cameos to count, it would take a full video just to list them. The opening credits were a bit overwhelming the first time, but that's the power of Scarface. Unfortunately, Al Pacino doesn't reprise his role as Tony Montana despite being credited, but only because after a couple of decades, the developers thought his voice heavily changed. He was 66 when this game came out, and it wouldn't sound at all like Montana of the 1980s. Instead, he gave permission to use his likeness over the Godfather game, another open world title which came out the same year, and handpicked Andre Sogliuso, I can't pronounce it, to portray Montana instead. He doesn't sound 100% like Pacino in 1983, but it's close enough. It's not bad actually, and after an hour or two of gameplay, you don't even think about it, for reasons I'll get to.
You work for me? We take this town by the balls.
However, this being an alternate storyline of a film about the dangers of living as a criminal, rewriting it for a video game does throw a lot of the morals and messages out the window, and comes across as a movie tie-in with all style and no substance. It's like making a video game tie-in for Goodfellas. It doesn't work when you think about it. And character development isn't there either. The only person I remember that wasn't Tony Montana was the Sandman, but only because he's voiced by Steve Bauer, who was Manny in the first film. Oh, and Sosa only appears in the final mission despite being the main antagonist.
You have nothing, Tony. You will be dealing in dimes for the rest of your pathetic little life.
But since the developers openly admit that, it creates a plot for a game I'm not prepared for, and you are Tony Montana cruising through Miami as is presented in Scarface. I forgive him for that. Some understandably won't, but I do.
Besides, like you say, I don't die so good.
What would you prefer, ladies and gentlemen? A direct adaptation or this? Or should they have never made a Scarface game to begin with? Do you think it would have been better if Oliver Stone written it? All the developers did was keep asking themselves, what would Tony Montana do? Well, the most obvious thing he would do after surviving a shootout of this magnitude is get everything back one by one. After meeting up with Felix and earning, or stealing enough money to buy back the mansion of Vice, the next thing you do is buy small businesses which are used as fronts to sell your product.
You sell me your business, work for me, I'll make more money than you can imagine.
Obviously, there are missions that move the plot as well, like taking out a gangster giving Tony's empire a hard time, but most of the game you're spending on your business, buying up clubs, bars, shops, and providing protection. Felix will also offer you small jobs and small drug deals to help make extra money, and as you progress, you'll notice more M's on the map, which indicate your empire's size.
It is with great pleasure that I sell you my store and be part of your empire.
Some of these places are straight up taken from the movie. Like, I would never have imagined owning the Babylon Club and Sunray Hotel, but you can in this game. And you don't realize how big Tony's mansion is until you explore it, whether it's in the intro or just roaming around. It's huge. Parts of the film's original score are back, on top of having its own for this game. But what is especially cool is having the licensed music too, including Rush Rush by Debbie Harry, She's on Fire by Amy Holland, Push It to the Limit by Paul Engman, on top of having almost every genre on the radio, including pop, hip-hop, heavy metal, etc. This being YouTube, I can't demonstrate, but the film would not be as memorable as it was without the soundtrack, and it's great to have everything back. Say what you want about the controversial choice to create an alternate timeline, but the developers certainly captured the personality of the film, although everybody's no longer inconspicuous after a few months. Everybody is guns blazing at every corner. First mission you're surviving a giant mansion shootout, next thing you're on top of a skyscraper throwing someone off a balcony. But for a video game and what Tony's doing, it makes sense.
Tony Montana is taking it all back. The Diaz brothers want a war, they got a war. You got that?
Which means, like the movie, the map is a condensed Miami, and is almost completely different from GTA Vice City. The whole city is free for you to explore after the opener. However, the businesses you buy are limited to one island at a time until you increase your reputation. Some say the map is a lot emptier than GTA 3, Vice City, and especially San Andreas, and for the most part, they're right. Scarface focuses almost solely on the empire building. You obviously have to complete the story missions, but everything is required to be interacted with in order to beat the game. It's like completing GTA 100% just to reach the final missions. Or does it make the map feel emptier than GTA? I mean, you can't rampage and kill innocent people. At first that sounds dumb for a Scarface themed GTA clone, but if you watch the film, that's part of Tony's character. He'll tell you, no kids. What I was most worried about was the map being too small to fit open world missions to get decent amount of gameplay. Look at it, only 20% is actually land. But then I found out about the multiple small islands south based on countries in the Caribbean, whatever you want to pronounce it, which require a loading screen. That's when you realize it's a bigger map than you think. And it took around 15 hours to complete the story missions. Not 50 to 60 as the developers claimed, but at least for the price I paid for the game, it's worth it. After taking over all the businesses on an island, you also need to scare away your rivals and earn at least 90% of the island's turf, almost like gang territories from San Andreas. Using leads from Felix, or straight up eliminate the gangs if you think you have enough health, firepower, and low police heat levels to do so. The latter is the harder and longer option, and the only reason you would is because you earn more, and it's the more fun option, as the machining mechanics are really good, at least compared to the GTA games of that generation. This is why having the final shootout at the beginning of the game is so clever. It gives an immediate impression of what kind of video game you're playing, how it controls, and how to handle an exhilarating situation. Aiming your weapon is similar to GTA 4. It's like a combination of third-person shooter and on-rails shooter with the way you target enemies. You lock them but still have minor control of the crossfire, allowing certain body hits. Some might think that makes it too easy, but once you take on AK-47s, M4s, and bazookas that can suck your health dry in seconds despite the cover system, they'll be thinking again. It can get pretty challenging on those last few missions thanks mostly to a lack of checkpoints. It's not perfect. You can't jump, which is annoying. You can only carry 3 weapons at a time, including melee and gun. For example, if you have a machete or chainsaw. Wow, this game is brutal. You can only carry 2 guns, and the melee controls are too simple. All you gotta do is one combo, wait for them to get up, rinse and repeat. Now it isn't as bad as the GTA games before San Andreas, but you're required to use them in certain side missions like roughening up others. But all that being said, I love the shooting mechanics and they get you pumped up, especially Tony.
You want more?
Ah, I almost forgot. This is one of the game's party pieces. On the bottom right where the health bar is, there's another 4 balls which fills up as you do things like shooting enemies, driving dangerously, and taunting others.
You want more?
There's an actual taunt button which at first I thought would be similar to the burp fart action from GTA 2, but nope. It helps fill up your balls meter even more, and once it's filled up completely, you can go into rage mode, which makes you briefly invincible, and every kill increases your health. Pretty similar to the Red Mist special ability Trevor Phillips has in GTA 5, although this game did it before and it's a lot handier. It's clearly based on the final shootout in the film when Tony thinks he's untouchable, like he's in the zone. It's a good idea to fill up your balls meter before a tough mission, because it's empty whenever you either die or start the game up. After all, it's the only thing he has, and he doesn't break them for nobody.
Is that all you got? Come on!
Unfortunately, this kind of relentless gameplay leads to a lot of slowdown and frame rate drops. It can be really bad sometimes. It's obvious during gunplay, but even something as simple as driving through a town or a car smoking up, it waves the white flag. Okay, the PlayStation 2 isn't the best example of graphical prowess, but word is that the PC version is just as bad, even on a high-end computer. Although that was 2006, I don't think it would be an issue now. Maybe Radical were pushing for a PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 release as well, but I guess they didn't bother in the end. This game was released during a transitional period where developers were moving on to another generation, so who knows why it runs like this. Once you purchase every business on an island and own a high enough percentage of turf, the next thing you do is take over a storage facility ran by either Gaspar Gomez or the Diaz brothers, those cockroaches. And that's when Felix can hook up large supplies for you to distribute. Deals can vary between small and large depending on how much money you currently have, and whether you own a storage facility. So once you have plenty of cash, find the right dealer and complete a successful negotiation, you need to take the waters and transfer from the islands back to a facility. At first I thought it was virtually impossible on those waters because they're surrounded by gangs and police, and you're completely defenseless with the boat you're forced to take. Almost every time I entered the sea I would get taken out in a few seconds. I nearly cancelled the review out of frustration, but then I decided to turn down the gang heat to see if it made a difference. And it did. I was able to purchase more with less money and got to choose which boat to take. This is the only one that could make the trip in one piece. I always knew that gangs were more aggressive when heat levels were higher, but it took me a while to realize that less gang heat means more profit.
The people pay us to make sure scumbags like you keep the economy nice and stable.
And same goes for the police. Clearly what you're doing in this game is illegal, so the police are going to try and stop you. However, the wanted system works a bit different from GTA.
You start doing too many things that upset the people, then your heat goes up. If your heat gets too high, then we'll be forced to make a house call.
And the only way to remove it is to bribe them. Or otherwise, if you're spotted again, they'll push harder with faster cars and roadblocks. To put it into a GTA context, you attract a 2-star wanted level. You evade it. But after attracting attention again, you start with 3 stars instantly. Evade it, commit another crime, and it starts with 4. It won't go away until you bribe them. The police in this game aren't as frequent as I'm putting out though, because although they're triggered easily, they appear on the map HUD, and if you stay out of their sights, you can lose them without generating heat. Sometimes it's more fun having maximum heat, but by the time you reach the last couple of islands, you'll be taking it more seriously. The final step in the business model is to receive the drug money from those businesses, and have left it outside for you to collect. This is where you finally earn the big amount, which means gangs will do everything they can to stop you, whether it's destroy your car or as many of the businesses as possible, cutting off all the money there. This takes me back to GTA Vice City stories when business attacks are occasionally triggered way too far from where you currently are on the map. Seriously? If you're close enough you can defend it, but there are going to be moments where you need to just ignore it and continue collecting, because you can repair it later and still make money in the end. It's a crazy business. Driving through this map feels slow at first because the car you start with looks like somebody's nightmare. The aforementioned slowdown doesn't make life any better, but once you get a faster car, learn the map, road placement, shortcuts, and how each car handles, you think of the city as a racetrack and want to go as fast as possible. Just be mindful of the small gaps and walls because they can stop your car instantly, apparent during the race stages, which are another way to make money by the way. So now all the money has been picked up, but that's still not the end of it. It's currently in your pocket, however if you get killed, it's gone. You need to take it to a bank to launder it with interest. And like the drug deals, the rate varies depending on how well you negotiate, and you'll want to because it's the only way to keep your money permanently and manually save your progress.
Hey, I've seen you before.
As a favored customer, Mr. Montana, you qualify for a special rate.
As you grow in rep and business size, so do your distribution earnings. And what do you do with that money? You spend it on expensive exotics, of course.
Can I buy a tiger from this thing?
I believe that the tiger will be made available soon, yes.
These can be ordered on the phone and vary between vehicles, henchmen, investments, house upgrades, and special antiques.
I wish Manny and Gina were here to see this.
What? While nothing's customizable, there's a higher variety of things to buy. That's something the GTA series from that era struggled with initially, with Vice City and San Andreas slowly improving, but Scarface takes it a few extra miles. Look at that pelican. Come on, pelican.
If it's expensive, I'm going to own it.
Some of these exotics, mostly investments, improve your player stats. And remember the balls meter? Well, whatever you accumulate will be added up throughout the whole game. And this unlocks femme fatales who hang around the mansion, who also increase your player stats. Because everything is part of increasing your reputation, not only is it a cool way to customize your style, but also as a way to progress through the game and trigger the story missions, like it symbolizes your progress. However, the only time you're in the house is either at the beginning, taking it back, and leveling up your reputation. That's it.
This place could use a cleaning, you know, like a maid or something.
So yes, you have to go to the mansion to level up, which lights up one of the letters of the Scarface logo, more exotics and weapons are unlocked, and then you go out there and do it again on another part of the map. Now you might notice that this review is more formulaic than usual. Well, that's the feeling you get when playing this game. Get all the businesses on one island, get enough turf, complete a couple of story missions, and increase your reputation by buying exotics. In that order, every single time. Now this would be fine if the distribution part took up about 20% of the playthrough, because the story missions are the best parts. But no, it takes up at least 70% and it's always the exact same routine. I can't stress that enough.
Oh, I bet.
Felix lead, supplier, negotiate with this golf swing style minigame, take it past the waters to the same facility, take the same routes on the road as quickly as possible, and launder with the same golf swing style minigame. It will always work.
Special rates can be worked out on a case-by-case basis.
The only things that change over time are the bank's rates, the number of businesses being attacked at once, and the difficulty curve. More businesses to pass in one go, and enemies carrying heavier weapons. I'll give them credit for that. It's easy at the start, and as you get the hang of it, they'll push you. I haven't got anything against the way it's structured. You need to balance between gain levels, the money you spend, and the businesses you buy. And all these little details can affect how much you earn in one go. The problem is that it relies on it too much, and every distribution takes around 10 to 20 minutes, making the game feel unbelievably repetitive, and you almost forget what's going on in the story or even the last mission. That's the fatal flaw, and sometimes I'd switch the game off out of boredom. But there is one small upside to it. When you do earn big amounts of money, it feels very rewarding. Probably because it meant I didn't have to do it again for a while, but it becomes a satisfying experience once you beat it.
The war's almost over, you got that? Come on, who's gonna face me?
What I would have done is added more story-based missions to assist further with the plots, or design it so that you can't do drug deals until you complete certain missions. That could run the risk of being too linear, but these set pieces are awesome. I want more of that. The developers wanted to keep the story interesting by changing the ending of the film. It's a shame they didn't put the same effort into keeping us interested during the actual gameplay in some areas. You could tell this was developed by fans of Scarface, but they weren't Rockstar Games. Yes, they also made Simpsons Hit and Run, which was a good open world game, but they didn't have the experience nor the resources to do better. It's more good than bad, and I say it's worth trying out if you can find a copy as cheap as I did, you're a Scarface fan, and understand the liberties it took to become a video game. The presentation, faithfulness to source material, and shooting mechanics are top notch for a 6th gen open world game. But it has plenty of issues too, and the one that almost kills the whole experience is the distribution structure. Since Radical Entertainment and Vivendi have been swallowed up by Activision, and Scarface is owned by Universal, it's too complicated to tell if a sequel or even a re-release is possible. But if Rockstar were able to re-release The Warriors for the PlayStation 4, who knows? Personally, I don't think so, because I don't know what the adventure would hold for Tony Montana. It's not like the plot was the biggest focus of this game anyway, so say goodnight to the bad guy.